Kimi Raikkonen becomes the fourth man to lead the 2018 World Drivers' Championship after a third win of the season in Austria last time out. With Ferrari scoring maximum points at the last three races, the Scuderia had taken control in the Constructors' Battle too. Silverstone could bring an end to this though, with Lewis Hamilton winning the last four British Grand Prix, with the last win for a Ferrari driver being Fernando Alonso's 2011 victory, with Seb's last coming here in 2009 and Kimi's in his 2007 championship year. Hello and welcome back to a wet Silverstone for race 10 of the F1 2018 Kimi Career. But fear not, because this is only practice. There is no more rain scheduled for the rest of this weekend. I was only at Silverstone a few months ago to watch the MotoGP, which I really enjoyed that weekend, sitting at Beckett's. This is a tougher track than the last few that have been, I think. I think we've been blessed by quite easy tracks to drive around Canada, France and Austria. This Silverstone race, yes, it's a flowing circuit, but it's still a difficult one to drive. And we've really come into our own the last couple of races, there's no question about that. If that can survive Silverstone, then possibly we'll look at making things a little bit harder for us, because I think particularly in Austria, we ran away with it. But in this race, I'm going to keep trying what we've done and keeping the setups as they are, etc, etc. I can't change the difficulty in this championship mode, so the only way I can make things harder for myself is not using custom setups and taking assists off, etc, etc. But let's see how today's race goes in Silverstone. We lead the championship for the first time this season, but as we enter qualifying, let's hope we can get on the front two rows at least. A front row start would be a nice bonus. First banker lap of the session then, and it's looking quite good pace-wise. We're 6/10 up on Valtteri Bottas at the end of the second sector. Now these are only banker laps, so somebody could come in. The likes of Lewis, this is one of his favourite tracks. He's got a really good record around Silverstone, so I feel like he could be a challenger for this weekend. But if you come across the line, what is the lap time going to be? It's a 1:28.4. That's 8 tenths clear of Valtteri Bottas, so possibly, I don't want to speak too soon, our qualifying pace could still be there. I thought that might have been a Mercedes there, but no, it's Lance Stroll that's come out there, so it's not Lewis Hamilton coming out for his lap so far. But Bottas sits second, Verstappen third, so I'm assuming from that neither our teammate or Lewis has set a lap time just yet. So Seb comes across the line at the end of his first banker lap to go P3, but it looks like we have a challenger. It wasn't our cleanest first lap, particularly you can see in the first sector. We were 6 tenths down on Lewis Hamilton, so the session theoretical best is a lot quicker than that, a 1:27.8. But Lewis Hamilton holds provisional pole after the first set of laps. Don't think Valtteri Bottas could be too happy with that, seeing that he is 3 tenths off Daniel Ricciardo. He had a really good start to the season, did Bottas, but that form just seems to have waved off. Ever since that bump he had with us in Monaco, he's not quite been the same, not quite had the same pace, and that'll be disappointing for him. But it's a second and third for Ferrari at the moment. We can definitely improve on that second lap, but equally, has Lewis Hamilton got more pace as well to challenge us? This looks to be a more competitive outing from Valtteri Bottas. He's a 10th down on Lewis in the first sector, but a 10th up in the second sector, so it's going to be very close if Valtteri can nail this third sector. What's it going to be for Valtteri Bottas? I don't think he's going to be top of the times, is it? Yes, it is. It's a 1:28.4. So with that second run, Valtteri has improved significantly. Very close between the top three, and he's gone out early, so I feel like that's going to be the end of Valtteri Bottas in this session. Crucially enough, he didn't send fastest sectors in any of the sectors, but put the lap together better than Kimi or Lewis could do to take provisional pole for now. This is where it's all going to count then. At the moment, it is a Mercedes front row lockout. I'm not liking what I see there with drivers coming out the pits, and that's a horrible first corner. You do struggle out of that first corner if you don't drop a couple of gears. I don't think this is going to be a great lap if Pierre Gasly's got anything to do with. We have come out into traffic here, and that certainly is not ideal. But let's have a look what it is at the end of the first sector. I think you're going to follow me throughout this lap. We haven't really done much of that in qualifying this year, so let's do that. So we're slightly down in the first sector now. We know in the first sector was where we were slow anyway. Valtteri Bottas has come out again for another go at it, interestingly. So 3 runs for the Mercedes driver, but at the moment it's a Mercedes front row lockout. We seem to have had a better run through the Luffield and Woodcut complex because we're just about better, but Valtteri Bottas needs to get out of our way here if we're going to improve on our lap time. Surely Bottas gets out of the way. No, he doesn't. That's just unbelievable. But we're looking a little bit better through the Copse section, coming into Copse, Maggots and Beckett's. A little bit wobbly through there, but it's okay in the end. We're marginally better on that first lap, but it's not a massive improvement. Half a tenth up at the end of the second sector. There's no question that a few tenths on this lap could have been gained by traffic getting out of the way earlier, and that I feel like is going to extend even still to Brendan Hartley and he's going to be going on his lap, so we're going to have to make a dive down the inside into this last corner. And I don't think it's going to be an improvement here, and we haven't got the fuel to go on another lap, so it's not going to be pole position for us here. Unfortunately, it was a competitive lap time. We've just got to hope the rest of the guys can't go any better than that, because third is the best we can manage on the grid, which is a decent result. Looks like we went out a little bit too early though, and traffic really didn't help us on that lap at all. So the top 6 are 2 by 2 by 2, but not in the way of Ferrari like it has been recently. Lewis Hamilton takes pole from Valtteri Bottas. Bottas, I think, improved slightly again. It was a 1:28.4 dead, wasn't it, on his second run. So he did improve slightly with a better third sector, but it was Lewis Hamilton who took pole for the Grand Prix. He set 3 laps as well. His second lap was better than his third, despite going quicker in the second and third sectors on the third lap, but only 5 thousandths away, so not really any difference in that lap time at all. But Mercedes, can they bounce back? Can Lewis Hamilton get his first Grand Prix win of the season? Or can Kimi or Seb do something about it?
Thank you all for joining us today for another exciting round of this championship season.
Now, one of the main talking points I think here is that Lewis Hamilton isn't in the championship fight at all. He's way behind. I think he's 91 points behind us at the moment. And you'd have to say nearly halfway into this 2018 season now that Valtteri Bottas has to be the #1 driver for Mercedes. So, will Mercedes, as we seem to morph through both the Mercedes cars there, will Mercedes give preferential treatment to Valtteri Bottas here? If so, is Lewis Hamilton there to try and back ourselves and Vettel up? Let's see how this plays out. This hopefully, fingers crossed, should be a more entertaining Grand Prix for you guys to watch compared to Austria. But if it still ends up with us taking the victory, I'll be a very happy man. Good qualifying for Ocon and Magnussen in the midfield.
The rest of the grid is forming up. Be patient.
Field is forming up there. So here we go for the British Grand Prix. 13 laps around the British Grand Prix circuit. And we're away. We seem to get a good phase, first phase of the start, but second phases aren't all that great. We hold it round the outside against Seb, and Lewis has really pulled away. We're going to try and go up the inside of Valtteri Bottas. At the second corner we make contact, but it's nothing too drastic. We give Bottas the room! Bottas nearly puts us into a spin there, and clearly Valtteri wasn't liking us making contact with him, and Lewis Hamilton has romped away at the front of the field, and two Finns collide again, although for, I think that was definitely the most dramatic contact so far this year. Lewis Hamilton has already pulled out a gap of 1.8 seconds, so we've got to set about Lewis and try and make sure that Lewis doesn't get out of the DRS. Well, he's already out of the DRS, but pull him back in. It's been a good start for Daniel Ricciardo. He's up from P5 up to P3. Valtteri Bottas, though, drops from P2 to P4, and Vettel is challenging him. He's also lost a position. It looks like Vettel's took that position as well. So a nightmare start for Mercedes' top hope. Well, with Hamilton already having a 2-second gap, I don't think DRS is a realistic proposition in a lap's time. The gap was 1.8 seconds at the end of the first sector, so he's only gained 2 sectors, so you would say the pace is relatively similar, but that's not going to help us if we want to claw back a second to the Brit Lewis Hamilton. Seb seems to have pulled a bit of a gap on Valtteri Bottas, but all that squabbling has left us top 3 with a nice gap, so I think it's just time to settle into this race and see if we can bring the Mercedes driver closer to us. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but it's only 2 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton. I think we were 1.5 at the end of the second sector, so Lewis has had a very good end to the lap. I'm not sure whether we've pulled out from the DRS of Daniel Ricciardo. The fact that we've got arrows coming in behind us would suggest that we haven't pulled out that second gap that we need. We are in rich fuel mix. We can't keep running that for all too long, even though we've got a 1.2 lap surplus in terms of fuel. That isn't going to last all that long. At the end of the first sector, the gap, again, he's pulled out by a tenth, Lewis. So I'm struggling to see in this first part of the race that we can get within DRS of Lewis, unless he makes a mistake. Good lap for us there. We've gained a couple of tenths on Lewis, but crucially, the most crucial thing here is that Daniel Ricciardo is now out of the threat of DRS. So I think that you can see there, I did say that the fuel won't go a long way if we keep running in rich. We've just lost a delta of 0.3 of a lap by running in rich. So I think we can bring it down to standard mix here. We know we've got seconds secured for the moment. So that's all good. Verstappen seems to have joined the battle for 4th between him, Bottas and Seb. So hopefully Verstappen doesn't take any points off Vettel. If he took 5th place off of Valtteri Bottas, that would be a nice help. But Daniel Ricciardo, without that DRS assistance, has lost another 3 tenths in the first sector. So with a DRS train forming behind Seb, they might be able to close the gap for 3rd, possibly. Got a VSC for something. I'm not sure why. There's a yellow flag in the first sector. The only driver to go through there at the moment was Lewis Hamilton. I was going to come back anyway because this is turning more and more into a 2-horse race. I think the gap was 1.3 seconds to Danny Rick at the end of the last lap. It's now 2.6. Don't know what happened there with that very short VSC. Possibly a bit of debris, but there's certainly no retirements in this Grand Prix. So that was a bit peculiar. We've lost a couple of attempts possibly in that VSC. The gap to Lewis is 1.6 seconds. The gap to Daniel Ricciardo, 3.4. So I do wonder, I mean, Ricciardo is very, very slow here. So maybe he might be nursing a problem. But one thing's for sure, as I said earlier, he'll definitely be reeled in by our teammate in Valtteri Bottas. Well, Lewis is in the pits. That seems like an early pit stop. Lap 5 of 13 here, so I suppose it's the opposite of what we would expect in terms of it's hammer time for Kimi Raikkonen. Our teammate's in the pits as well, so for the first time this year, it feels like we could be going for the overcut. It's been a purple lap so far. We were 2 tenths up in the first sector, and that's 3 hundredths up in that second sector. So it's been a good lap on this in-lap for us. We've got a good gap to Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen, so I can't see there being any risk of those guys threatening us in the pit lane here. God, I didn't think we'd get to the speed limit. We were just trusting the racing line that we'd got on that would get us to that speed. But no surprise that Valtteri and Max both choose this lap to pit in. It all depends whether they are close enough. Valtteri won't be a problem. Whether Max is close enough to hold us up in the pits. Green light's on. Yeah, we're okay. We haven't been held up at all. Where's Lewis, Seb and Danny Rick? Can't see them yet. Where's Lewis Hamilton? Is he going to come across the start-finish line? Don't want to talk so soon. There's Lewis.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving.
So there is Lewis Hamilton. It feels like we've gained a little bit though, coming out the pits. Now we have got a lap's fresher tyres, but we do have to warm them up. Feels like we could have DRS here. We are closer to Lewis than we have been so far in this Grand Prix, but he just pulls out massively out of that corner because of the grip that he's got from his tyres that have warmed up. So any time that we could have gained, although that being said, we're not that far off. It's 1.3 seconds, so this is attack time. Again, we've got some tyres to use that are a little bit fresher than Lewis is behind. Crucially for Sebastian Vettel, he's managed to move up into P3. It's not been a very good phase in the pits for Daniel Ricciardo, who had a really good start, but he's moved back now into at least P5, if not P6. Good result for Ferrari on here, considering that Valtteri Bottas is our main championship rival in the Mercedes, not Lewis Hamilton. But even so, wouldn't it be great to go for 3 wins in a row? Slight gain at the end of the first sector on the following lap. We've been really pushing since coming out of the pits, and that's telling with our fuel load only being 0.2 of a delta over now. But I feel like we can risk that fuel because ultimately that's the only way I think we're going to get close to Lewis Hamilton. If we can get past, then we can nurse the fuel a bit more afterwards. We are getting close to Lewis. Can we get DRS out of this maggots and beggets section? Look at this game we've now got. I think we're going to have DRS most certainly coming onto the hanger straight. This is the first time in this Grand Prix, and look at the game we've had. We've got DRS on Lewis Hamilton. That is a mighty second sector we've had, and for the first time we lead the British Grand Prix. That was a really strong lap, a 129.7. We're going to keep in that rich fuel mix, try and get out of the DRS of Lewis Hamilton, but I don't think it's going to be possible here. I think he will get DRS coming onto the Wellington straight. Such is the pace of Lewis Hamilton. I'm doubting myself between the two straights here. Is this the hanger straight and the other one the Wellington straight? I've been to Silverstone 5 times and still I can't really remember. Lewis has got DRS here, but I don't think he's as close as he'd like to be to challenge. So we're going to stick it back in standard fuel mixture just to see if we can get that fuel delta back to something more representative of what we need to finish this Grand Prix. It's all well and good being out at the front, but if we can't finish on a decent amount of fuel, then it's no points for us today. But Lewis Hamilton is staying close behind. Can he get a good run down the back straight to try and retake his first place in this race? So Lewis is going to have DRS here. He's only 3 tenths behind. But if he wants to take the position, he's going to have to take the suboptimum racing line. Hamilton round the outside. Doesn't really push that much though. We brake later than Lewis, and that first attempt to get the position back ultimately ends in failure. Just shows the impact of that rich fuel mix. In that last lap was a 1:31.5. Yes, we had fresh tyres on that second go round, but it was a 1:29.7, which was our fastest of this race, which just shows how much we were pushing and the fact we had the rich fuel mix, of course, to help us. It feels like we might have to do some fuel saving because that negative delta hasn't reduced at all on that last lap, and most crucially, Lewis Hamilton's delta hasn't increased to us at all. He's only a couple of attempts behind. He's not close enough to challenge at the end of that DRS straight. But the race for the victory here is not over yet by any means. We did some fuel saving on that last lap there, which has clawed back some of that negative delta, but that has led to Lewis being really close in behind us now. I've also noticed that Seb's pulled a massive gap to those behind, and one of the Red Bulls is past Valtteri Bottas, so that's a really secure third place for Seb as it stands. Lewis hasn't been closer through that sector. He's only a tenth and a half, 15 hundredths behind now. Can he carry that on through the second sector and get a good run down the back straight? He's really close to us coming into Maggots and Beckett's. Not my strongest suit on this track, I have to say. Tricky to hook all those corners up, which no doubt is going to give Lewis Hamilton some advantage coming down the next straight. But actually, Lewis isn't as close as he was going into that section, so possibly the turbulent air hasn't helped him at all. Is he going to make a move up the inside? He chooses not to. So on this occasion, we're going to use this opportunity to drop it down into lean for a straight or two, just to get that back. If we're on a delta of 0.00, I'm happy with that. It's just being underneath that delta at the moment, which frightens me a little bit in this Grand Prix. He's 3.5 tenths behind. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a go of it into turn 1. However, he might be close enough into this farm curve complex. No, still doesn't make a move, so we're going to go back into standard fuel mix now. We're now okay in terms of fuel. I don't think we've got to save anymore, but we don't have any in reserve really if we're going to have to make a fight against Lewis Hamilton and make a move back. So he's going to have DRS again here, but again I think we've got just enough of a gap to avoid him going for a move. I think we are going to be most threatened going down into Stowe. Well, we've pulled out a nice gap of 8 tenths per second. You can see a plane on the left hand side there. That's getting a lovely view of the British Grand Prix, the closing stages here of today's Grand Prix. But it seems that we've pulled the gap on Lewis Hamilton. What's it going to be as we come up to the line? Is it more than a second? If so, we've broken Lewis Hamilton. I think we can sleep a little bit easier. Sleep a bit easier? Well, we can rest a bit easier on that last lap. It's a 30.5, which is a lot better than what we've done on laps beforehand. That's the first adventure into the 130s for a while. The gap is 9 tenths per second, so there's still DRS threat from Lewis Hamilton in behind, possibly. He's got 2 more goes at it to try and win his first Grand Prix of the year and a 5th British Grand Prix in a row here in 2018. So, is it going to be this time round? I don't think he's close enough. Don't even know if he's got DRS because the gap behind seems to be growing and growing here. Remember, that lap that Lewis had those tyres on is a lap that we were on the old tyres. So we've got a fresher set of these hard tyres, perhaps, well, harder tyres, actually the medium tyre. Perhaps that has helped us to draw the gap ahead of Lewis Hamilton. You can see the tyre wear's not been great on this tyre, but I suppose tyre against tyre, it does make somewhat of a difference. Try and stay in a straight line there. That could have been a disastrous end to a really good day here at Silverstone. But it looks like we could pick up our 3rd race win on the bounce. But it's certainly been one we've had to fight for here. There's no question about that. Not as dominant as the last 2 performances, but with a 1.7 second delta coming down to the last few corners, I think we can safely say, barring a mistake, this British Grand Prix win is going to be ours today. Lewis Hamilton certainly fought for it. He's been his best performance so far this year. Remember that his previous best has only been 2 third places before this, I think anyway. But this is going to be Hamilton's best result of a second so far this year. But it's a 3rd Grand Prix in a row for Raikkonen and a 4th of the season. And our grip on the World Drivers' Championship has grown ever more. It's not a Ferrari 1-2 today. We're going to gain 10 points on Sebastian Vettel. And looking at Bottas, it was either 4th, 5th or 6th. So his grip on this championship battle is reducing ever more. And Daniel Ricciardo is starting to run out of it as well. So is it going to become a battle between the 2 Ferraris possibly? Feels like Ferrari might well have the strongest car on race pace. Seb just didn't really have much of a chance given he was held up behind Bottas in the early stages. That move we pulled on Bottas, we did have some contact with the Finn, so that could have ended our race early on, but we stayed in a straight line. We ran after Lewis Hamilton. We knew we hadn't really got what it takes in the first stint, but after we pitted, we made our move on Lewis Hamilton, and that is how we came to win the British Grand Prix. It's a double podium for Ferrari, so still a good day for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton's got to be disappointed though. He led the Grand Prix early on, had quite a gap to us, but we clawed him in, and I think it was probably that pit strategy that won it for us. Certainly on the last few laps when we gapped Lewis more than a second. He couldn't come back. He had a few half attempts to make an overtake. He couldn't do it, and it's the Ferrari mechanics that are having a good evening tonight, because it's a third race win for Kimi in a row. It's a fourth race win in a row for Ferrari after Seb won in Canada. It was P4 in the end for Valtteri Bottas, but look at that gap. Really close between those three at the line. Only 2 tenths between them, as Max Verstappen, I think for the first time this year when Danny's finished a race, has finished ahead of his teammate. Double points finish for Renault, a couple of points for Checo Perez and 1 for Kevin Magnussen. And one sole retirement today was Esteban Ocon from 7th on the grid. I can only assume that was probably a mechanical failure. Yep, it was. It was in the wars with Nico Hülkenberg a few laps before that though. But let's have a look at the standings after that British Grand Prix. We now have, I mean, this is how Valtteri Bottas has just lost his grip. Remember that we're behind Valtteri Bottas for a long time in this championship, but we've now got a winning hand over our fellow Finn. We're 15 points clear of Sebastian Vettel. Again, that's with a bit of an asterisk ahead of it, because Sebastian Vettel had a mechanical failure in Spain. Had he finished that race, he'd have got another 18 points and would still be leading this World Drivers' Championship by 3 points. But another double podium for Ferrari today, and it's another gain to Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. And that championship for certain is one that, unless Mercedes have a really good second half of the season, I can see them struggling to get that back. I think they've got enough of a gap over Red Bull though for that not to be a problem. Further down the grid, Renault are quite strong in 4th, Haas in 5th. The gaps are fairly big really between 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Again, Force India probably disappointed all the way back to that race in Australia, where they could have had possibly a double podium with how that race ended, but alas they haven't, and they sit in 6th. Sauber 7th, McLaren 8th, Toro Rosso 9th. They picked up 6 points I think in the first race, so that's been their main contribution so far this season, and Williams still to get off the mark. But we extend our World Championship lead, and going into our teammates' home race in Germany, that is another race where possibly things could change. Lewis Hamilton gave it his best today. It was really that lap though. You can see that our laps were pretty competitive with the rest of the field. I think our previous best was a 1:31 or something like that. But a 1:29.7 where we reeled in Lewis Hamilton, got DRS and made the move, was how we won that British Grand Prix. We'll be back in a few days then for the German Grand Prix. Only a few races to go before the summer break. This is going very, very quickly. And in the last few races, has started to go very, very well for us. So if you enjoyed that, leave a like down below. Comment your thoughts as well on the current championship situation. And anything you'd like to discuss, I guess, in the comments. And remember to subscribe for regular F1 2018 content. Thank you for your company today. I hope you've enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.